We're talking about organizing continuous data now. This will be similar to how we organize discrete data. There will be one difference here, and we'll get to that in a moment. So I went ahead and wrote out a problem so that way you didn't have to sit and listen to me and watch me write out this problem. So go ahead and pause your video and you can write it down real quick. So example 1 says, the table below lists the high temperatures in January at Texas A&M University Commerce during a 2-week span. So there's our table. It lists 14 different highs for 14 different days. So what we want to do is we want to construct a frequency and relative frequency table. Okay, so this is where the difference comes in. When we were talking about discrete data, such as rolling a die or flipping a coin, those types of discrete things, we have a set number of outcomes that could happen or possible. So for rolling a die, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Here, we have decimals. So when we set up our observations, we want to know here how many of these temperatures during this 2-week span are between 39 and 40 degrees. And we also want to know how many are between 40 and 41. So we're setting up intervals now instead of just a set specific number. And that's going to be the difference here. So what you want to start out by looking for is, what are my smallest and my largest values here? So your smallest value is going to be 39.1. And the largest is going to be 47.8. So I know I need my intervals to go from these two at minimum. So if my lowest is 39.1, then I want to start my intervals at 39 degrees. And then I want the very last interval that I make to go up to 48 degrees. And it'll make a little more sense once I start writing. So let's do this. So let's start our table over here. And we'll call this the temp. And we can have a tally here. And I will fill in the rest in a minute. But let's focus on these intervals I'm talking about. So our lowest temperature is 39.1. So I want to start at 39 degrees and go up 1 degree each time. I could go up 2 degrees. I could go up 3 degrees, meaning instead of doing from 39 to 40 degrees, I could say 39 to 41, and so on. It's just depending how big a data set you have, what kind of information you're looking for would change that interval. For what we're doing, let's just set it to 1 degree and go from there. So the first interval would be 39 to not 40. You want to bump right up close to 40, but not actually get there. And I'll show you why in a second. So 39 to 39.99 degrees is what our first interval will be. The reason behind that is so that way the next interval can start at 40, and that way we don't have an overlap. Because if this was 40 and this was 40, you wouldn't know where to put the number 40 at. So now by doing this 39.99, now I know 40 has to go in here, and that will follow the same trend all the way down. So this gets to 40.99, and I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down until I get to my highest value, which was 47.8, or here it'll be 48. So I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over. And it is a bit of writing, but it's not that bad. Just get it over with, and after this part it goes a little faster. can stop. All right. Now, let's tally all the temperatures that fall within this range or this interval. So I've already done that. I won't go through, but if this was a new data set, which you will come across, what you'd want to do is come through here and find all the ones between 39 and 39.99. So I have 1, and I would just kind of mark it out like that. 2, mark it out like that. And then you just keep counting. And there's 3. And keep marking out until you've marked all of them out. So 1, 2, 3. I have none here. And then 1, 1, 2, 2, nothing, 3, 1, and 3. And tally marks are useful. That way you could, instead of going back and forth like I just did, you could just start with the first one and say 41 goes here. And then just keep going down the line. That way you're not switching back and forth between numbers. Then you can say 46.8 goes here, and then mark it out. 45.3 goes here, and put a tally mark. And then once you go through and get to the end, then you can count your tally up here. So frequency is next. Let's make our lines a little longer. So 3, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, 3, 1, 3. Be careful here with my lines so I have room to do this next part. So here we're going to do the relative frequency, and I've abbreviated relative frequency. So what you want to do, use a different color so it's not all jumbled as much. Relative frequency is the same as before. In the numerator on the top, it's the observations that you want divided by the total number of observations. So I know the total number is 14. You can either add these down or just count all these. But I did say it was a 2-week span. So either case, there might be cases where you just have to count. They might tell you. Just make sure you know the total number of observations. So this relative frequency for 39 to 39.99, it's the frequency of that observation, how many I want, divided by the total number. So 3 divided by 14, which is going to give you 0.214. Here, there were 0 over 14, so that's 0. For 41.99, there was 1 out of 14, so that's 0.7. Excuse me, 0.07. Same thing here. And I encourage you to pause the video and finish doing all of these. And just kind of get warmed up, thinking on your own, and using the calculator a little bit will be helpful. 2 divided by 14 is 0.143. And here's 0 over 14, which is 0. 3 over 14, which is 0.214. 1 divided by 14 is 0.07. 3 over 14 is 0.214. All right. Question now that we're done with all this. What should all the relative frequencies summed together equal? All right. This is a question that you should just know off your head without even adding these together. This will be an important rule now, and it'll be important later on also. We'll revisit something very similar to this, and it should be 1. You add all these down, and it should equal 1, because 100% of your observations came from this set. This is right here, 41 to 41.99, this is saying 7% of my observations came from here. When I add all of these percentages together, it equals 1 or 100%. All right, the last thing to do would be able to draw a histogram. So let's do that real quick. Example 2, construct a histogram for example 1. And really you'd want to do a frequency and a relative frequency. I'm going to do one and leave you to do the other. So down here on the bottom is where it will be a little trickier, not trickier, just be a little different. Here now you want to actually use tick marks to label here's 39 and here's 40. And don't start 39 here, because then that looks like 0 and can be kind of misleading. So just keep going like this until you get to your last interval. All right. So now we need to look at our table in conjunction with what we're drawing over here. So we said, and I know you can't really see all of it. Here we go, we'll do that. 39 to 39.99, there were 3 of them. And I guess I need my frequencies over here. So my lowest frequency was 0, and it goes up to 3. So I'll go up to 4. All right, 39 to 39.99 was 3. So we'll start here at 39, draw up to 3, and then finish our box and stop at 40, just like that. Then we'll pick back up at 40 and go to 49.99, and it happens 0 times, so there'll be nothing to draw there. Then we'll pick back up at 41, and it happened once. And then 42 to 42.99 was once, so it's just like this. 43 to 43.99 happened twice. 44 to 44.99 was 0. And then the 45 to 45.99 was 3. 46 to 46.99 was 1. And the last one was 3. And that's how you'll do that. And I will leave doing a relative frequency. I want you to do that so that way you can get a little practice here. The bottom will be the same. You need a label here. Labeling is important. Temp. So your temps will be the same. Over here will be your relative frequency. And what you will need to do is determine what frequencies here would be what relative frequency would be best, what intervals to go from here. So what do you want to start at and what do you want to end at? Your lowest is 0, so you'd obviously start down here, and your highest goes up to 21%. So you could do intervals of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, all the way up to 0.21, and that's a lot of tick marks and a lot of writing. Or you could do every 0.2, so you go, or 0.02, excuse me, you go 0.02, 0.04, 0.06, 0.08, 0.10, 0.12, and that's still a lot. What I would do is probably do 0.05. That would get the job done. But you can play around and do that with how you wish.